¿Quiénes somos? ¿Quiénes somos? ¿Quiénes somos? ¿Quiénes somos? ¿Quiénes somos? ¿Quiénes somos?
Welcome back to CHIRLA TV. I'm your co-host, Karen Hernandez, and I have my other co-host, Edgar Aguilar. Today, we're going to talk about the first 100 days of the Biden administration, and we have our guest here, CHIRLA's Executive Director, Angelica Salas. Welcome. And we also have our new Political Director, Fatima Flores Lagunas.
Yeah, so welcome. Welcome to both of you. Angelica, again, see you here in the show. And Fatima, nice to see you. I see... Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, how is it that you joined CHIRLA now?
That's a loaded question, but I'm happy to answer it. Hello, everyone. My nombre es Fatima Flores Lagunas. I was born in Mexico City, Mexico, and my family immigrated to Omaha, Nebraska when I was 6 years old. So y'all might be thinking, how did she go from Nebraska to California? Right. Well, CHIRLA is an organization that I've admired for about 15 years of my life. I've been organizing to really activate and improve the quality of life for Latinos and immigrants in Nebraska. Nebraska is very different politically than California in some regards in that ahí estamos, we have a presence, but our political power is not at the point where it is in California. So after the September 11th attacks and the anti-immigrant rhetoric that happened and that came with it, as an 11-year-old, I witnessed the deportations, all of the raids that were happening at meatpacking plants and agricultural plants in Nebraska. That's what we're known for, right? We're in the heartland. So that experience as a kid really changed the way that I viewed the world and my place in it. So one of the first things that I did was do research, organize myself, and find common people that also believe what I did. And that's that Latinos and immigrants are essential to our communities. We work, we activate our communities, we contribute to our society, we're full of life and culture, right? And everything that I was hearing nationally did not pair with what I knew of my life. So I started organizing when I was 15. I would hold workshops and rallies that really focused on the undocumented struggle. And that was pre-DACA, right? DACA didn't happen until 2012. I was able to become a beneficiary when I was 23. So it really not only cemented what I would do with my life as a social justice warrior, but also how I wanted to get involved even more, right, at the national and local level. So started working with nonprofits that focused on passing driver's licenses for DACA recipients. In 2015, Nebraska was one of two states, the other being Arizona, that did not allow us to drive. So we petitioned across the entire state that we needed to drive. We could work and go to school, but how are we going to get there, right? We passed that law, and I got my driver's license like 2 months after. So I was like really happy about that. And it showed that when we organized politically and as community organizers, we could do even more. So then we went back to the legislature and fought to receive professional licenses as DACA recipients. And then we went back again after to pass a resolution that DACA and DACA beneficiaries were going to be supported from deportation by the government of Nebraska. And then I got involved in electoral campaigning, always keeping my eye to the ground in California, porque como dicen, lo que pasa en California puede pasar en todo el país. And we felt the repercussions of that after Davis was recalled and Schwarzenegger came into office. We felt the effects of the anti-immigrant politics of Arnold. So that kind of really solidified the fact that we weren't disconnected, right? Nebraska was very much connected to all of these other states, and we were going to be implicated positively or negatively. So then once I finished working with the Nebraska Democrats, I started looking and finding out what I want to do next for the next 5, 10 years, 15 years of my life. And I knew that I wanted it to come back to immigrant rights and justice. I went to CHIRLA's website, and honestly, I just looked at the job postings and I saw the job post and I was like, okay, Fati, you got this, believe in yourself, you know, because it did seem bigger than life, like a dream job. And I was like, it's in LA, they're gonna want me to move immediately. Am I ready for this, right? After Mexico and Nebraska, that's the only place I've lived in. So I applied, and I went through the interview process, got to meet Angelica and Seti and the rest of the management team. And it was, when I got that job offer, I was like, it felt so surreal, but at the same time, it solidified that I'm on the right track to do the things that I need to do to put immigrant rights and justice at the forefront of what's happening in the U.S.
So, Angelica, you must be very proud of the leadership that you've been able to acquire all the way from Mexico, Nebraska, and now here in LA.
Well, I'm very proud of the leadership of CHIRLA, because CHIRLA's organization is made up of leaders like Fatima all across the board, individuals whose lives are actually really express what they're fighting for. And so for me, it's a great pride. And so it's adding one more leader to an incredible, leaderful organization.
Wow, that's incredible. So we're really excited to see what you'll be able to accomplish here in California. That, of course, like you mentioned, is going to affect the whole country. Yeah. And with that, we'll be right back here in CHIRLA TV.
¿Quiénes somos? ¿Quiénes somos?
And we're back to continue the conversation about the first 100 days of the Biden presidency. Now, to put it into context, this 100 days is a tradition that started over 80 decades ago, and it's all thanks to President Roosevelt, who, as you may remember, we were going through a depression here in the US, and he was analyzed really, really closely in the first 100 days. And he accomplished a lot. Right? So after that, every next president, they were like, okay, well, let's see if you can match it up. Let's see how much you can accomplish in the first 100 days. And a lot of presidents really begrudgingly give a comment about the first 100 days, because really, how much can you really accomplish in 100 days? Will your presidency be judged in those first 100 days, or should we look at the 4 years, 8 years, or what happens afterwards, right? So it has been the first 100 days of Biden. And let's see, that's why we have Fatima here today to share with us what we have seen with Biden, the positive and the deltas, what we need to keep improving. So let's start with the easy one. What has been good with Biden in terms of immigration?
I think first and foremost, we have to understand politically and socially the context that Biden was put into this presidency. We were dealing with the worst pandemic in U.S. history that we had ever seen, and we knew that a lot of American lives had been lost by that point, and that recovery was going to be tied to a vaccine rollout. As we knew, the Trump administration was kind of fumbling with that process. There were a lot of things that could have been done looking now at the perspective that he failed on. So there was a lot of catch up. So I think one of the biggest accomplishments that we've seen so far is the implementation of the vaccine rollout. The fact that we're getting through the first round of vaccine rollouts, but also getting to the second, and really setting a tone for what we're going to do next, because our economy and our communities can't bounce back until we're really able to get healthy again. So I think that's the first thing that I would like to mention, that we have been very successful in that front. Hopefully it's something that can happen worldwide. We are not living in a silo. We have partners and allies nationwide and countrywide that we need to also accomplish, getting them to that point where they're also vaccinating their constituents and their different members of the community as fast as we have been.
Right. One good thing about the vaccine rollout that you're mentioning is the fact that here in California, in New York, in Texas, you don't really need to be a citizen. You don't have to show any proof of citizenship in order to get the vaccine. Anyone can get the vaccine right now. Just go, if you're a resident of the region, just go show your ID, and there you go. No questions asked. You just get the vaccine and get healthy, right?
Exactly, and that's instrumental to, again, ensuring that our communities don't face a barrier to being healthy, right? There should be no way that your status should be tied to receiving this vaccine, which is something that I really believe could have happened under the Trump administration. You know, we could have seen a lot more barriers that could have slowed this down. Second of all, I think economically, we've been able to pass the American Rescue Plan so that we were able to get some money into the pockets of different communities. With that being said, we need to continue pushing for more. It's a whole year, 365 plus days that some Americans and communities went without payments, right? They're facing foreclosures, utilities, back payments on their bills. So we have to understand that there's another facet of what we have to deal with, the economic perspective. but also our communities that are undocumented. We're essential workers. So not only expanding on that front, but also accomplishing the different fronts of this intersection of this economic battle that we're also going to face. And thankfully in California, we've been able to get some assistance, but you can't say that nationwide. As someone that is from Nebraska, that is something that would not happen with that current governor. He would not be okay with undocumented people receiving assistance, even though they're essential to the meatpacking plants, to the agricultural landscape. So again, there's a lot that has to be done and shaped around how we recover and we bounce back. And finally, we need to continue pushing for immigration reform. We've been able to stop the mandatorium on some deportations. We've been able to work on the reunification process. But Dreamers, Tipicianos, essential workers, and our undocumented families are still waiting for comprehensive immigration reform. So 100 days is cool and all, but we still have a lot more work to do, and that can't happen unless we continue activating our communities and keep that gas on the pressure.
Well, we're really excited to have you on board with CHIRLA and what we have to collaborate with and work together on. So
we know that CHIRLA also has a campaign called Yes to Immigrants Forward, in which they're looking for continue the push for immigration reform to keep essential workers and immigrants in all bills that are being passed, that healthcare comes to all, not just citizens, but all immigrants. And how is CHIRLA reacting to the first 100 days of Biden in terms of health?
Well, first and foremost, I think that from the perspective of an immigrant rights organization, we see his first 100 days as being extremely, extremely effective in terms of making sure that on day one, we actually reversed the horrible policies that were anti-immigrant through the Trump administration. That DACA, for example, is now available not only to the people who were renewing, but for new applicants. There's so much more that I know we're going to continue to talk about these 100 days, but we need to ensure that we pass immigration reform. And so I want to make sure we talk a lot about this in detail.
Of course, so we'll be right back to talk about immigration reform.
¿Quiénes somos? ¿Quiénes somos?
welcome back to CHIRLA TV. I'm your co-host Karen Hernandez. We're continuing the conversation with CHIRLA's Executive Director, Angelica Salas. Before we went on break, we're talking about the first 100 days. Let's discuss a little bit more about the first 100 days of this current administration and what can we expect moving forward? What should we continue to fight for? Share with us, please.
Sure. So previously, I was discussing really what the Biden administration did in terms of reversing the policies of the former president, Donald Trump, which were absolutely against our community. But he went further. On his first day, he also put forward the Citizenship Act of the U.S. And so this is an important. The U.S. Citizenship Act is one of the most progressive immigration reform proposals in the history of our fight. So that proposal made sure that, number one, individuals were legalized in this country. It's the 11 million. It includes family reunification reforms. It includes protection to workers. It also introduces immigrant integration programs so that immigrants have what they need to thrive. So it's one of the most progressive immigration reform bills that he actually worked with us to develop. So that was introduced on day one. And so every day forward, what we have seen is progress. And so the first thing that we did was the DREAM Act was also introduced, as well as the Farm Worker Modernization Act. Those two proposals have already been voted out of the House of Representatives. Additionally, our Senator Alex Padilla here from California introduced the citizenship for essential workers, because the perspective is if our workers who are essential actually kept this country moving forward, the least that they deserve is not to be deportable, but instead to have a path to citizenship. Those two proposals have also been introduced. But what do we still need to do? Well, we don't have immigration reform yet. And so we want to ensure that immigration is one of the progressive priorities that gets done, that gets across the finish line, and that the president actually signs. So right now, we're pushing, number one, for a vote in the House of Representatives on the U.S. Citizenship Act. And that should be happening in the next couple of weeks, because we believe that those proposals need to be voted in the Senate. This will also happen with the citizenship for essential workers. Once in the Senate, we have a tougher situation because we have a very thin margin from which to work with. Right now, the Senate is divided exactly 50-50, with Vice President Kamala Harris actually being the tiebreaker of the situation. And so what we need to ensure is that the proposal moves forward. Of course, we're seeking the 10 votes that we need from the Republican Party, but in addition to that, what we're saying is that immigration reform can be connected in the reconciliation or any budgetary must-pass bill. And so we want to make sure that these proposals that I have described are included and that our community quickly gets to a path to citizenship, and that the path to citizenship finally becomes a reality this year in 2021.
And so what can our viewers do to get involved with either at CHIRLA or in their local communities?
Well, they could be part of the Yes to Immigrants Forward campaign that CHIRLA is running. For too long, what we have heard is no, 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 another day, no, not now. What we want to say is yes to immigrants, really advancing in their lives and being able to stay here and thrive in their country. This is their country. And so what we're asking our community to do is to go to the CHIRLA website, and you can go to www.chirla.yes, or in Espanol, www.chirla.c. And then you can sign on to a petition, let us know that you want to get involved.
All virtually. They don't have to go in person.
Yes. And so then they can get involved. But most importantly, what we need is for you to participate in contacting your member of Congress, your senator, ensure that your voice is heard and that you express to your member of Congress and to your senator that you want to make sure that immigration reform is done this year.
Great. Well, Edgar, I think that's feasible for the audience to do.
It definitely is. Just visit the CHIRLA website, sign the petition, share with your friends and family over Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. There's so many different platforms in which you can share this great information. And you can also reach out to the CHIRLA hotline. If you need any assistance, if you know who your representative is, if you want more information on how to get involved, reach out to the CHIRLA hotline. They'll be there to assist you and guide you in the right direction. So please get involved. We need your support because it's time to say yes to Immigrants Forward, yes to los inmigrantes avanzando. Vamos a salir adelante todos juntos. Y aquí ahorita regresamos para seguir la plática con ustedes.
¿Quiénes somos? ¿Quiénes somos?
Welcome back to CHIRLA TV. So I just want to thank our guests today. Fatima, welcome to CHIRLA, and Angelica also, welcome back. But any last remarks, anything you want to share before we close today?
Yeah, I want to thank everyone that has given me an opportunity to welcome me into California. Mis papás, mi familia todavía están en Nebraska. So it has been a little bit of an adjustment just because of the enormity of everything that's happening, but everybody has been so welcoming. I also want to ensure that people know that I'm accessible and transparent with what we want to do with the Civic Engagement Department. Your voice and the actions that you contribute to what we're doing are so essential. In order to get through these next 100 days and to get to the path on immigration reform, we need everyone to get involved. If there's anything that I've learned as a community organizer is that acting is the greatest act of revolution that we can bestow upon us and our communities, because if we don't act now, other people will act for us, and we don't want that to happen. So my email address is fflores@chirla.org. Please email me. I'm very accessible. I want to hear from you as well. I can't say that I know everything about California, but what I do know is everything that I want to accomplish is going to be with you collectively.
Awesome. Thank you. And Angelica?
Well, what I want to say is we're so excited to have you, Fatima, as part of the CHIRLA team. Welcome. Y luego le quiero mandar un mensaje a los papás de Fatima, si nos están mirando desde Nebraska. Estamos muy orgullosos de que ella está aquí con nosotros. La vamos a cuidar bastante. Y nosotros nomás estamos, ¿verdad? Pues les damos a ustedes las gracias porque está aquí con nosotros para avanzar los derechos de los inmigrantes. And then for everybody else, I just want to say this is an opportunity for for us to take action and to win the things that we've been fighting for so long. It's all of you who made this moment possible. You got out to vote, you participated, and now it's time to ensure that which we voted for becomes real in our lives. So it's being part of the Yes to Immigrants Forward campaign, but the Yes to Immigrants Forward campaign is also part of a bigger movement for progressive change in our country so that there's equality and justice for everybody.
Bueno, ya lo saben ustedes en casita, aquí nos vamos a estar viendo cada semana para seguir hablando sobre lo que está pasando a nivel local, a nivel estatal, a nivel federal. So thank you again to both of you for being part of the show. As I mentioned before, having you, Angelica, in the show is always super insightful. We get to know a lot of what CHIRLA is doing. And now with Fatima, thank you so much for joining CHIRLA. And now, well, let's hit the ground running and let's hold our elected officials accountable. That's right.
Yes, absolutely. One of the things that we want to make sure of is that we don't regress, right? There were a lot of things that we learned from the Obama administration that we can hold Biden accountable for. It's about moving forward, just like Yes Immigrants Forward, and ensuring that even though we got him elected, that we have the ability and the right to hold him accountable to make sure that our advances are promised and kept.
Definitely. Thank you so much to both of you for being here. We really appreciate all your insight every single time that we have Angelica here in the show. It's so insightful. We get to learn a lot more of what we're doing in the community here in California and at the national level. And so thank you again. Remember, visit chirla.org, get involved. And aquí nos vemos la próxima semana en CHIRLA TV.
¿Quiénes somos? 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 ¿Quiénes somos?